I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to Worldview Finder, episode 47.
That's almost 50.
It's almost 50.
Our quinceanera episode. That'll be 50, I think.
Yes.
Quincentennial.
Okay.
Well, we're off to a good start. Hey, today we're talking about, would you trust a cyborg cop? Cyborg policeman? What some Florida women did for money. Can you teach an old dog a new worldview?
Hey.
But first, are we getting closer to a one language world?
I sure hope so, because I only know one language.
All right, because we're Americans.
We
Obviously.
don't need other language.
We know American.
My daughter's learning Portuguese through Duolingo or whatever it's called.
You're obviously not learning this language.
Duolingo.
Any language.
Duolipa, I think that's...
Duolipa. What's it called?
Duolingo.
Yeah,
Duolingo.
You said
You don't know anything.
Linguinio.
With the green bird.
Jimmy, tell us about what's going on with Chat GPT 6.
Yeah, so it's Chat GPT 6, but then it's also, they came out with this thing called Chat GPT 4.0. So I don't know a whole lot about this, but it had some new interesting features, and one of them was, and I don't know if this is like actually out for the public yet, or if this is kind of beta testing or whatever it is, but they have real-time voice translation. So I'm talking into my phone, and then it's connected to someone else's phone right there, and then what they hear in real time is in their native language.
So
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I saw this because the person says it, and then then it goes. Then it's like a translator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not hearing it as the person saying it.
I could be totally wrong. Let us know in the comments.
So, because I watched it. I think I saw it on Instagram. Because
it's very possible.
Yeah, because the person, I think it was Italian, like talked into the phone, and then it read it back in Italian to the person. Oh yeah.
I think they can do it in real time, though. I believe it.
Okay, well, I'll trust it. But yeah, so what's going to happen to the world around us?
That is interesting because, I mean, for the longest time, language barrier is a very big thing, and I think that just looking out in the world, there are a whole lot of people you just can't interact with if you don't know their language. So if it was a thing where either in real time or just like this, where it was super accessible, where all you have to do is speak into your phone and then they hear it in their native language and you can communicate like that. And then I do think even if it's not now, we will get to the point where, I'm just talking to the mic, but then it's translated and they hear it in their native language just immediately.
Yeah, because if you didn't know, Jimmy is talking in Swahili right now.
Well, actually, so this is slightly different, but I know they do have an AI thing where you can put your video through it, and then not only will it overdub in a different language, but it also change your lips where it looks like you're saying it.
What?
Yeah. And
that's crazy.
You can do it for all these different languages and stuff, so So on YouTube and everything like that, they could be listening to this podcast in Hindi, and it looks like we're actually speaking in Hindi as well.
Wow, that's cool.
For all our Hindi listeners.
So my question is this bringing us back to Babel?
Back to Babel. So what do you mean by that? The Tower of Babel?
So the Tower of Babel, they all spoke the same language. At that time, there were no multiple languages.
What language was it?
English.
English,
Yeah,
obviously. So then they attempted to build this tower reaching up to the heavens, and then God confused their language. And so they all spoke different languages and scattered throughout the world.
So you're saying God's going to intervene with Chat GPT 4.0 and make it so I can't understand.
No, Jesus is going to come back before that, which means probably in the next 5 years.
Chat GPT 7 is the bringing in of Jesus.
What if Chat GPT is the Antichrist?
It could be. I think that's definitely a possibility. So with the Tower of Babel, so me from like an outside perspective, what was, obviously they were trying to kind of exalt themselves and in a sense be their own God.
Right.
But this kind of collaborative where everyone can communicate with each other, everyone can work towards something, is that a bad thing? Where if there was, we went back to where everyone could talk to each other in real time in their own language and we can all collaborate. Is there anything bad about that?
Well, obviously.
Obviously.
No, but the idea was I'm going to be God, basically, because they're like, hey, we're going to build this tower to the heavens because we don't need God anymore. We can do this. We can get to heaven on our own, kind of
So
thing.
we're actually going to get there by building. It's just in the sky, really.
Yeah, they were dumb.
they need to build something to the fourth dimension.
That's how it works.
So yeah, but so there's this idea of we have different languages for a reason.
Yeah.
Like there's uniqueness. There's nuances in language too, because there's certain words in other languages that you can't translate into English or something. There's different flavors.
Yeah, I think it'll like almost dumb it down. If we all end up doing that, it'll have to dumb it down, and like you said, the nuances will lose those. Like the Japanese have some really cool words that are like big words that mean like feelings. It's like
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
yes.
That's the one she was thinking of, actually.
I just remember there's like one word that means like the feeling you get when you sit down on the couch and have a cup of tea. Like, but there's one word for that or something.
It's very
like
specific.
Yeah, it's like I love that about it. Yeah.
But also in just in English there are so many different accents and so many different kind of dialects, if you will, of that. Where the UK, they speak English, but they say water bottle. Can I get a water bottle?
Oh, please don't turn this
that
into
was great.
a reel.
That was incredible. Yeah, but so I mean, there are even inside of your native language. There's, even if you know the same words, it's sometimes hard to kind of still communicate with that. So it will be interesting to see if that is a thing.
Well, with Harry Potter, they had to translate some of it to American English.
Because it's from the UK.
That's right.
Harry Potter had a Philosopher's Stone.
Water bottles.
Philosopher's Stone instead of Sorcerer's Stone, because we
don't know what philosophy is.
That's true.
And then they said Ministry of Magic, and we said Youth Ministry of Magic. No, there's different. Like torch is flashlight.
They say
water closet is bathroom.
You say water closet?
But wouldn't it have been nice if a whole bunch of American kids were reading this and being like, oh, I'm learning something about another culture.
What's a trolley?
No, but if I'm reading it and it says, oh, Harry Potter took a torch, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a flashlight. I'd be like, he's carrying around a burning stick.
I guess that makes it.
And then the batteries went out, and I'd be real confused. Like, what? His fire batteries?
And then you would learn something.
Those are magical fire batteries.
I was like, oh, well, I guess in Harry Potter they have magical
fire batteries.
Fire battery.
Yeah, so
anyway, we have just totally derailed.
Torches. They had luminous wands.
I guess kind of the worldview of that. So, is there kind of a similar situation in kind of our culture where humanity or people are kind of setting themselves up as God instead of letting God be God?
Well, do you think that if everyone spoke the same language, that it would result going back and toward that path? Like that people would say, like, look what we can do now that we all speak the same language.
I don't think that's what's holding people back.
I don't either. I think things have changed by now.
There was another part to that story. They were supposed to go out into the world, and they weren't. They were like, no, we're going to stay here, and we're going to build this giant tower.
Yeah.
And so having the same language helped them to build that tower, but they were also disobeying God in the fact that they were supposed to go out into the world and spread and multiply. And so I think, if the one language caused us to not go out into the world.
But I think it almost would have the opposite effect now. Like if I could go anywhere and language wouldn't be a barrier, I would start traveling everywhere.
To preach the gospel or to look at Stonehenge?
Well, Stonehenge people speak English, so
not the aliens that come out of that ground. But
you can speak to the aliens.
I'd say like it would be really beneficial actually for spreading the gospel.
Yeah, and I mean to Jimmy's point about do people take on the role of God in there? Yes, I think that's
as a general rule, yes.
I think that people just have that tendency no matter what. It's just in what level of crazy does it come out?
Because I have that tendency in my own life, but I know because
Chris is the worst.
Because I think I know better in certain things and all that stuff. I'm like, well, I don't have to listen to God. I can figure this out. But if I have one language, I don't know that would affect.
Probably not. Yeah, so I guess the underlying thing is just they had kind of instructions or God had a plan for them and then they wanted to do things their own way.
Yeah.
And then, in our own lives, that's very practical in our day-to-day. Do you want to do things where this is what God wants me to do, or do I want to do what I want to do?
But like the main criticism not the main criticism, but a criticism of AI is that the more and more you let it do something for you, the more and more you lose that skill. And I think the idea of learning a language and going amongst people who speak it and like having that experience is something that's really important. And
Why?
people would be lazy about it. Well, like we've already talked about, like
So
you are learning more than just a language. You're learning culture. You're learning histories.
But with AI, if you're like, instead of, hey, this is a bad thing, but if you embrace it, not only can you learn one language, but then you could learn all of the languages and communicate in all the languages.
But you're not learning.
I'm not learning that language.
Okay, you're not learning it,
So
but
you're losing the skill to learn.
that doesn't matter if you can do the thing. It doesn't matter if you learn how to do the thing. If you can do the thing, same thing with calculators.
Creativity?
The same thing with calculators. I think it's different. Creativity is different than calculators in language. So I think if you can do the thing,
we still need people to do math. Like that is not have to do with calculators.
Yes, but for all the calculating things where a calculator can be used, you don't need to know how to do that math in your head. You have the technology available. A lot of people are.
So we'd still have experts who are learning languages.
Yeah.
And then, but for the average person,
This guy.
we would, the average lazy person.
Yeah, so I
cannot learn a language. I mean, I've attempted and failed.
Because people have made that argument for all different kinds of technology throughout all of time. It's like, well, this technology is bad because now we're not going to be able to think for ourselves, and now we're not going to be able to have all these practical skills. But which is more valuable, practical skills or getting a better end result? I would say result.
I don't know.
Better end results.
Not always. The journey is more important than the destination.
You can spend all this time learning the languages, and I'll just fast track. I'm getting the Neuralink and moving on.
Oh, that's right.
Neuralink.
You're getting the Neuralink.
I was going to get it. That was on a previous episode.
All right. Well, so with AI taking over languages, are they going to take over the justice system? So, Adrian, you've been reading a book about a cyborg cop.
It's not about a cyborg cop.
Adrian's not been reading a book about a cyborg cop.
So close.
I was misinformed.
What is this book about?
So I read the first book of the Murderbot Diaries.
Murderbot Diaries.
Sounds like a robot.
I know, it sounds ominous, but this little charming cyborg has named himself that.
Oh.
Because his backstory is he short-circuited and ended up killing 58 people.
Whoa.
And then he was somehow, like, that's the thing is this book is like, you just jump right into a scenario that he's in. So you kind of learn little things about him, but you never get the full story. So as far as I know, he somehow, like, he was so devastated by that, that he learned how to, like, disconnect from the government who was giving him, like, downloads and stuff. He's more robot than human. But
So a cyborg is half human, half robot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's more robot though than
Okay.
human.
75-30.
But he
an extra
learned how
5%.
he learned how to
If only
disconnect.
Jimmy had a calculator
and
to
so
figure out 100%. Okay.
he still like follows what they like the orders they give him, but he's just not downloading like their, I guess, updates or whatever. So at any moment they could take control of him, but he is like trying to hide and pretend that he's still in control, like they're still in control of him, but he's not. So he spends all of his time though, what he's done with this freedom is that he just watches soap operas.
Sounds about right.
Because he doesn't understand humans very well, and he feels really awkward having human interaction. So he's pretty charming in that way, and like wants to just like disappear. And sometimes like if he's around a lot of people and they start asking him personal questions, he'll just like go and walk in the corner and pretend that he has to like recharge. So he just stands in the corner.
So did he used to be a human?
No.
He was
like,
born this way.
I don't super know.
Okay.
Like
So
that's the thing is it's just a scenario. It's like one kind of scene there. He's like with a team that's doing some research on a planet, and he's just helping them out. And then there's like he's realizing that there's more to the story, and people are trying to kill the research team, and so then he starts to protect them. But people are very wary of these. They're called sec units, which is security unit. So he is technically like security.
Security.
But he refers to himself as Murderbot because of as a reminder of what he did.
So you said this is going to be an Apple Plus.
Yeah. So
TV
why
show.
I read it is because it's Apple Plus just announced that they're turning it into a series. And if you guys know Alexander Skarsgård,
I know Alexander Graham
I know
Bell.
Peter Skarsgård.
I think it might
That's
be
it.
his brother.
It's his brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's playing the Murderbot.
Okay. Was he it? Alex Skarsgård? Peter? I don't know. One of the Skarsgårds.
No, he wasn't it, but he's like a Zoolander. I don't know. He's going to,
You know, that good old charming Zoolander. Okay, so Jimmy and I watched a show, Resident Alien.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Where he learns how to interact with humans by watching Law and Order.
Okay, so it's similar. Like I think he's like trying to figure it out that way too. He's like just wants to go and watch his soaps.
And I think that's an interesting concept in shows like where like you're watching an American TV show to learn about the culture.
Actually, going back to the languages thing, I've heard that people in other countries, they will watch like Friends, for instance, to learn English.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, this is how I learned. Yeah. Because they'll go on shows and be like, this is how I learned English. And it's interesting to hear that but there's also these cultural things in shows and movies that they think like all Americans carry guns.
Where are the guns?
Yeah, well, it's saying like what show would actually portray how Americans really are, because it's not Friends.
Full House.
Yeah.
Danny Tanner.
This little puppet.
I'm like, you know what it is? Parks and Rec or The Office.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
those are very true.
So, but with him trying to learn stuff, so his, what does he do in the? So it's just like scenarios after scenario.
It's him trying to not necessarily convince them that he's good, but he does in a way. And they're like his team that he's with is wrestling with. Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Because a lot of them are used and can be, since they're connected to this, they're all connected to this like big system. Yeah, I would say like Wi-Fi type of thing. And he can get a download at any moment that can turn him. And so they run into another team where their sec units went rogue, or not rogue, but like got a download from some bad source and killed the whole team. So they're like really worried that he's going to do the same thing. But he's like but he's trying to save them. So it's like wrestling, but it's really his wrestling with just humanity and where he belongs. And so he is a good guy so far.
So there's a video game that wrestles with this called Detroit Become Human. Have you guys heard of this game?
I've not.
So it's by the same makers of Heavy Rain and the Origami Killer.
those.
But in it, so you're these AI, you play a robot, but you're like a police robot, and you go into these situations, and you can kind of like investigate and stuff. But like the first one, it's a robot that is holding a kid hostage, and you've got to like talk him down out of that situation. And the thing about these games is like there's just a bunch of different scenarios of how you can do that. So you can go,
We don't negotiate with terrorists.
yeah, you can do that. You can go just shoot the guy. You can like, and the hostage kid can die. Like there's a lot of different endings to that one scenario, and there's several different scenarios. That's the only I've watched that scenario. I don't know that I played it, but it wrestles with that, like them kind of become human. Like that's why. So
Well, I think that with us talking about AI a lot is like that's kind of an evolution of people's thoughts is like, okay, what happens if AI becomes sentient? And there's so many books now and movies and TV shows that are coming out and video games where it's like exploring that.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Is there any sort of worldview behind like what if robots become sentient?
Well, yeah, because then you have to wrestle with humanity in us, like created
souls.
in God's image. Yeah, because you're like,
Yeah.
okay, if these people are actually created in God's image,
if they can think for themselves.
then how can they create these things? Yeah, because it's like, are we just all robots? That
Are we living in a simulation?
Or it's like we're created in God's image and the robots are created in man's image.
That's
Which is
racist.
created.
That's robots.
That's humanist. Yeah, and so because I think I don't know if we talked about it on here, but there was voice recognition of. Yeah, you gotta have a voice bubble. But they were doing like an emotion test on. Like basically, you would call. It's like a call center type thing.
Yep.
And so this person called in and was like, "Hey, I can't believe that this happened," and the AI was like, "Okay, I can tell by your voice that you're a little bit upset. Tell me what happened."
Yeah, I saw this too.
And so, but then she ended up, like the AI, basically at one point he like yells at her and she's like, "I know this is just a test, but it upset me when you said that." I'm like, she knows. Like,
Yeah.
and that's where it becomes odd. You're like, okay, do they really have feelings, or they just are programmed to know what feelings are, and that when you say something harsh like that, it's supposed to.
So real RoboCop, Dubai is testing out RoboCops in malls or something.
Yeah.
And they're programmed to recognize facial expressions, to know, and like tones of voices.
Okay, I thought this was real, but
It's fake news.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's a show, but I cannot remember what it was, our movie, where they had these police bots that would go to like certain situations and
I think it was Wall-E.
try to de-escalate the situation. So if you know, please let me know. But in 2023, New York was trying to get these robots that would basically be in malls or crowded areas that were just recording everything. It wasn't audio, but it was just video recording to try to like catch people. And they do that with like those cars too. They have like a big police car that'll sit out and just record.
Or
really?
surveillance cameras.
Yeah, and people don't like that. And so, but yeah, if there was a robot that could write tickets or something, I'm like,
Would you take a ticket from a robot?
No.
Just
You
punch
talk
it.
your way out.
Yeah, you
You start crying.
Hey, robot,
just had a
It's
really
just,
hard
there's
day.
so many
I have a kid at home.
little things that add up. It's like, okay, so do you get the same like felony if you assault a robot?
A robot policeman? Yeah. I don't know. So, yeah, but so the worldview behind a lot of this is that robots don't know the emotion side of it. And so, but some would say that was good because when you bring emotion into it, that's when, because cops are human too. And so they like sometimes will escalate a situation, not on purpose, but because like their emotion is behind it. And
But
like,
did we talk about on the show that somebody thinks that there's going to, like, then one of the next presidents? Is that you that said that?
The possibly having an AI president because
Yeah.
there would be no emotion and they could just make the most rational decisions.
Yeah, but I feel like there's already stuff about that, like shows that
I think
tackle
Biden's
that.
AI.
There's something.
They're like,
We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, they're all AI. But yeah, so
I
so
think
the
they're
world,
lizards, actually.
that's true.
so the worldviews of these books, though, what are they saying? Are they saying
Oh, I haven't read the whole series.
Right,
but just this first one, I don't know what it's saying, really. Like,
The robot's good or bad?
robots?
yeah, I mean, he's definitely trying, and he's trying to be a good guy, and he's at the end, he's wrestling with somebody like buys him basically and says like, you can be free to explore whatever you want. And he's like, well, what do I want? Which is interesting because it was like those other books I read, the Psalm for the Wild Built, but it's the opposite. It's the robots are sentient and they ask humans, what do you need? And so humans are wrestling with that question. But in this one, the robots are wrestling with like, oh, what do I want? I don't know.
What would make me happy?
So it's almost like this first book was almost like a setup for the rest, because it's like he sets out on his own at the very end. So
Okay,
it's
so-
like, I think we'll explore more worldview stuff later on, but right now it's just like everyone might be bad, there might be, and he's like, I'm just more of a little awkward guy trying to find my way in the world.
Trying to live my life.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to talk about another police show I've been watching where they do wrestle with, okay, what's good and bad, and like how do I handle these situations? But it's funny because there's a lot of emotion behind police work and life in general. Like there's a lot of emotion that we bring into it. And so if you have an AI that doesn't have that emotion, they still know how to read it, but does that make them more or less real to you? And that, I mean, do we talk about like the AI girlfriends, like things like that, where it's all that kind of stuff that we build into.
Is it one of those questions
life.
like, is it real because you think it's real?
Yeah.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Sir Francis Bacon.
Francis. Okay, I'll tell the story. Did you the guy? It wasn't perception is reality. What was the other Sir Francis Bacon quote?
I forget what it was.
Francis Bacon. I don't know. But this guy like grew up like hearing this.
This Francis Bacon
quote, but he's like,
and
he kept like figuring out like, okay, why is this?
Everyone is saying this. And it doesn't make any sense at all.
Such a quote, because he would say, it was like knowledge is power or something, and then Francis Bacon, and he's like, so I asked my teacher like, knowledge is power. He's like, yeah, and then he goes, Francis Bacon, and he's like, yeah. And he's like, in his mind, he was hearing France is bacon and not Francis Bacon. And he's like, I don't know what.
Why do people keep saying this?
Everybody's in on this except for me.
Yeah, and because he's like, Francis Bacon? And they're like, yeah. And knowledge is power. Yeah, I think that was it. Knowledge is power, Francis Bacon. He's like,
I get the knowledge is power part.
He's like,
we're good on that.
He's like, explain this to me. And so his teacher was like, knowledge is power. And he explains all things. Like, Francis Bacon is like,
yes.
He's like, what does this mean? And
I don't understand.
And then finally he saw it written down. So, all right, speaking of weird stuff, we're going to be talking about Florida foibles. So, there are these ladies, and they're like, we're going to break this world record. And they're like, we're going to do it for charity, though. We're going to raise money, and they're going to see how far can we go in a toy car.
Yeah.
In a toy car, like one of those little ones from Walmart.
Little Hot Wheels.
Yeah, well, they look like
they look
SUVs
like real cars.
Or
you gotta charge those things. I feel like
you do. So I wonder, do they charge them along the way?
Yeah, they had to.
They have like.
They hook up to the Tesla chargers.
Yeah.
Just like blow up. Like, oh man. So they drove 500 miles from Jacksonville, Florida to Key West, Florida.
That's crazy.
In toy cars. And they did it to save animals. So they raised over $16,000 in charity.
Wow.
Their goal was 10,000, and so they like documented it on TikTok as they're going, and there are a lot of people watching their videos and all this stuff, and so they raised all this money, and they're like, "Hey, Guinness Book of World Records, we did it!" And they said, "But did you?" And so what they did is they said, "Well, because you raised money doing this, it's now a corporate thing."
Oh.
And so I didn't know this, but you can get in the Guinness Book of World Records for free.
$3.99, yeah.
Unless you or unless you get money for it, and then it becomes a corporate thing, and then you have to pay
lots of money.
$16,000.
Oh, that's not a coincidental number.
They're like, oh, how much did you raise? You have to pay us 16.
All the
you
money.
raised 16,000? Yeah, we'll put your name in for 16,000.
I know. So, but have you ever done anything to raise money for charity?
No.
Nope.
You never done?
I mean, I did fundraising to go overseas, but I didn't raise money for charities.
Well,
I
okay.
do fundraising part.
Oh yeah, for yourself, yeah.
For myself. And as my
Adrian's
job.
got a personal fund.
Because we would do like for camps and stuff in the summer, we would do things where you like. It's almost like the March of Dimes or whatever, where you would like fill out like, hey, I'll give you this much money to do a work day or whatever. So you're like sponsored.
Never heard of the March of Dimes. Only heard of the Ides of March. Is that similar or different?
Same. It's the same thing. It's
Totally the same.
If it was translation, it's just translated different.
I remember a friend of mine would trick or treat.
For money?
Yeah, it was like for UNICEF.
What do you mean trick or treat? They would go ask for candy?
You would have like a box that it was like a UNICEF sponsored box that they would give you, and it had like a little coin slot or whatever, and you'd say like, instead of candy, will you donate?
Oh my gosh!
Wait, while trick or treating?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is UNICEF?
I can't even. I don't even know.
I know that some soccer players wear it on their jerseys. I never knew what it was, though. I think it's some humanitarian thing.
Yeah.
It's something kind. Let us know in the comments.
Let us know. If UNICEF, if you're watching right now,
I'll
make this, we don't know what UNICEF is, and I'll make that no short. People just be so mad.
People
They
are
don't
so
know what
mad.
UNICEF is.
You guys are idiots.
I mean, UNICEF. Okay.
Technically, we didn't know what UNICEF was.
Humanitarian aid.
See, that's what I
organization.
said. I said
For every child everywhere.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Make a donation. Works in
time
the
we're
world's toughest places to reach the most disadvantaged children and adolescents, and to protect the rights of every child everywhere.
Healthy, educated, protected, respected. Oh, that's
it
nice.
rhymes. So would you give up your trick or treating to help UNICEF?
I never did, and I went with my friend trick or treating.
Oh, so they were
I
doing
was,
it
I
and
was sitting
you-
there being like candy, and they were like UNICEF.
I'll take the candy.
I don't know who this is now, but tell me off air.
Yeah, I won't
We'll
say
bleep it out again.
It was who?
I bet you can totally guess,
I probably can. But,
Yes.
but you won't. No, my question is: would you have an AI robot in your house doing some chore?
It already is. It's called a microwave.
yeah,
chores.
the vacuum robot.
Oh yeah, Roomba.
But it can't like talk back to
Yeah,
you.
but that doesn't mean
It
it's not.
maps out your whole entire house.
That's
And
true.
You don't think
Yeah.
the government has that?
They know where you live
Okay.
and where you go.
That's like the same as those new Apple goggles or whatever.
Apple
Because it's
Vision
like,
Pro.
yeah, you're just.
Oh yeah.
It knows everything and knows
Oh,
your
yeah.
whole like routine and what you see and what you pause on and
So
So would I have it? Yeah, I'd have an AI
all
robot
of your
do my chores.
appliances and what brands you use.
So I don't know if this is released yet. I don't think it is, but Tesla Bot is becoming a thing. Have you heard of the Tesla Bot?
No.
Yeah, so it actually looks kind of like a humanoid robot
Oh, yeah, I have
that
heard
would
of that.
do, I would assume, similar things to that, where they could, raise your kids for you or other
If
small
I
chores.
had, if I had a robot to do my laundry and dishes, I would do it.
You would do it?
But is a washing machine a robot? What defines a robot?
No, I mean it's gonna collect. It's gonna like be humanoid, and it's gonna collect my clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Throw them in the washer, dryer, fold them, hang them up, all that.
No, I've seen too many movies where it just
Come
goes
home
wrong.
and it's cheating on your wife. Your wife is
Gosh,
cheating with the robot.
we went there.
Who
More.
bakes cookies?
Yeah, no, that's the thing is, it's like, where does it stay when I'm when it's
It
not
just
being
stands
used?
there watching
It
you.
stands in your room. Yeah, it
Yeah,
stands
like
in your room and watches you
if
sleep.
I know that like there's a humanoid robot in my closet
Yeah,
while
it-
I'm sleeping, like that,
It's gonna
that
come out and-
unnerves me.
It's going to kill you. And you know it is.
It's like, oh, I'm sharpening knives.
Oh, that's like that
Why? Always the knives.
that new horror movie, Megan.
Oh, yeah, well, it's like a...
It's a girl, it's a doll.
What is it, AI doll or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Did you see it? I haven't seen it.
No,
It's basically
it has a
Chucky. It's the new
yeah, it
version
has
of
a
Chucky.
comedian from like a Instagram famous comedian in there. So I've like watched a lot of clips and stuff that he's in because I like his stuff.
Okay.
It's Matt Rife.
That's Brian Jordan Alvarez who made the very popular sitting. Sitting is the opposite of standing. You know that guy?
Oh, I know that TikTok song.
Yeah.
This
He's in that movie.
Interesting. I did not know that was a thing.
is what I do. I sit. on
Yeah,
you.
this has been a lot about AI. I think we have one more AI segment, don't we?
Yes, this is about the show Rookie. There's no AI in it whatsoever. No, I started watching Rookie.
But it's about a cop though,
starring
right?
Nathan Fillion.
Oh, that was it.
Yes.
So that's our tie.
Yeah, it's about cops.
Progression.
Yeah, and so he is a 40-ish old man, and he gets divorced, and he's been a construction worker his whole life, and he's like, you know what? I think I'll move to LA and become a policeman. And so he's kind of like restarting his life as a 40-year-old and just figuring it out. And so he is a rookie, and the other rookies in the police force are like in their early 20s. And so it's just kind of his perspective on life is very different than theirs. And even the other policemen, like, because he has to train, but even the people that so they've gone through their 6-month like training. Now they're like going out on the streets, but they've got a seasoned cop that they're with, like that they're assigned to. And so it's just interesting watching them like work together. And so he's very much like a talker, and so he'll like kind of try to reason with people and things like that. And then his TO, they call it training officer, is basically like, look, some people are just evil. Like because one of the episodes, this guy, they're trying to tackle like these bank robbers, and he gets him and he's like arresting him. They're on a subway, but the bag of money is sitting right there as he's arresting him, and the other lady's like doing something, and so some guy just grabs the money and runs, and so they end up like tracking that guy down. He was a busker on the subway, like just playing music or whatever, and so they go to his house. They found out who it was, and they're like gonna arrest him, and his son's there, and he's like, please let me pay it back. He's like, basically like, I needed to turn my water back on. And I mean, he just paid bills. Like he's like, most of the money's here, but I spent some of it to turn my water back on. And then his son comes in the room and he's like, what's going to happen to him? And so you just see them wrestling with these kind of hard choices. And that's where like the emotion of it comes in. 'Cause you're like, okay, what would I do in this situation? Like they have
straight to jail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a felony. Yeah. 'Cause he stole money and then spent it. And so he's got to go to prison, but you're like
straight to prison. Wow.
so then the TO because the whole episode they're wrestling with what's real, like, because she said everybody's one like bad decision away from being a criminal. Like given the opportunity to be a criminal, you're going to choose that. Is basically what she's saying.
That's what she says?
Yeah, because she's
That's what she says.
This guy's not a criminal, not thinking about robbing anything, and then all of a sudden he's given this opportunity right at his lap to, I'm going to take this money, I need it. And so, so she's like, if you're given the right circumstances, you're going to choose something bad.
Desperation.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I don't think that. I think people are basically good, and he's like, I don't agree with you. And so it's interesting watching that kind of dynamic because his worldview is, people are going to make the right choice, and I can reason with them and talk it through and all this stuff. And she's like, no, they're going to. She's like, always assume they're just going to commit a crime, like because given, if you're desperate enough, you're going to commit crimes. And so,
well, it is interesting. I think some people outside of the Christian community are kind of appalled by the idea that we believe that humans are kind of morally depraved, meaning that they have the sin nature and they have this kind of drive to do bad things. But then you also see. So how do you guys view humanity as a whole? Do you think in general people would do the right thing? And then how does that kind of push up against the idea that everyone's flawed, everyone sins, and has that sin nature?
Yeah. I mean, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We're told that in Romans. And so we all mess up. And given our state away from the Lord, like if we're not in following Jesus, then we're going to keep going down that path to be worse and worse. Yeah. And so
and justifying crimes and stuff. But like, again, I haven't been in a situation desperate enough. And this is what like Les Mis, he wrestles with that that's like the whole point of Les Mis is he steals bread to feed his family, and then like it haunts him the rest of his life and changes the course of his whole life. But he's a Christian and he like gets, so he's like wrestling with that as well.
Those moral quandaries of, would I steal to provide for my family? Like you kind of get those things. But so what about you? Like, do you think?
Well, because on one hand you have kind of desperation, but then in just a general sense, if someone had the opportunity to do something that benefit them but was illegal, do you think the average person in humanity would do it, or do you think they would do the right thing and not do it? So do you think humanity is generally good or generally bad?
So if they had the opportunity to do the right thing?
If they had the opportunity, just so if the bag was right there, a bag of money that they could take, and let's even push it a little bit further and say that they knew they wouldn't be caught. So if there was just that bag of money, they knew it was from the bank, it was stolen, but they could get away with it. Do you think most people would take it, or do you think most people would do the right thing and return it?
I don't think there's a black and white answer for that.
Well, yeah, that's why it's most people.
Most people. Yeah, especially if you know you're going to get caught, you're not going to know that. But if you're like, I think most people would just, I'm going to take this money.
Okay, so you would say that in general they'd be bad then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I finally finished Deal or No Deal Challenge, or Deal or No Deal Island, and yeah, but in that, like, you watch people lie to be able to win money.
They're in a game. It's fine.
We talked about that last week more, but yeah, and so you almost want to believe that people are good, but then you watch things like that, and you're like, okay, when given the choice, they're going to lie and backstab, and you can say, well, it's in the context of the game or whatever. But
what I said.
But but it's still like, no, you don't have to lie to do this, but they're doing that to earn money. Like,
Don't have to win.
They're making that choice. No, the lady that like, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the finale, just fast forward a minute. But yeah, but the lady that won didn't lie and played the game kind of in the middle. Like, she wasn't
the one that lied to the guy.
No, and so she wasn't choosing sides. She wasn't doing stuff, and but it was good to watch her win, because even like in her story, like, this is where a lot of times in the story, like, you want to hear the story, you didn't hear it till the very end. You're like, oh, I would have been cheering for her a lot longer if I knew her story of why she wanted the money and all that stuff. And so maybe they talked about it earlier, but not to the extent they did on the last episode. You're like, oh, I wish I would have known that about her. Then I would have been more compelled to want her to win. And so it was fun watching her win. So, but no, so back to the rookie. So I like it because a lot of it is wrestling with worldviews. And so, because they did one episode, there's a ride along. So this guy, he's a director for a movie, and he's made all these like blockbuster movies or whatever. And so he's doing a ride along, and they're in this situation where there's a special needs guy he's an adult, but he's got a knife and like doesn't understand, because they're like got guns on him, and they're like, put it down, and his family's like, he doesn't understand, like, don't shoot him, but everybody's like yelling, and he'd assaulted the mom, but he's like mentally not all there, and so they have to arrest him, but they're like, hey, we're gonna try to put him in a facility, and they're like, we can't afford that and stuff. So but so then later the director goes back and tries to basically say, hey, I'll pay for this facility or whatever. And so, but then, so he gets a call, Nathan Fillion, and he's like, they're like, what? He's like, you got to help me. These guys are trying to like kill me or rob me or something. And so he had invited that guy to his place or whatever, and they're trying to break into a safe now and take all his money. And so he's like, what are you doing? And so, but they get there, and the guy was like, you're trying to just solve this problem with money. Like, he's like, people don't live like that. And he's like, I was trying to be helpful. And he goes, yeah, but what's going to happen next year? Like, you pay for it for 1 year. And he's like, I said we would like talk about it. He's like, hey, what does that mean? Like, he's like, you can't just throw money at this problem and solve it. And he's like, well, that's how I live. And so there's just these wrestling of different worldviews in the show that I appreciate. And so it was good. I've liked it so far. It's not been, I mean, he has a girlfriend and stuff, and that's part of the plot too, because it's one of the cops, and so it's like, okay, should we be doing this and whatever? But it's. And that worldview is like, oh yeah, we can just be casual about this relationship that's obviously
more
doing married people things and not being married.
Well, it is interesting looking at all those different situations, because I think sometimes there's in life where you're in a situation and you might not even know what is the right or best thing to do, and you're like, I even want to do the right thing, but I still don't know what option to do, what thing to do. Yeah,
and that's what I like. Yeah, because you kind of have to wrestle with them. If not, it's not like it's not just black and white of like, oh yeah, well he's going to give money and it'll be okay. But it's like, no, that guy's trying to help because he has the means to, but it's also like not helping because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, at the end, it's a relationship more than like goods that make change happen.
Yeah, and that's where you see Nathan's character of like developing of like he tries to talk to the people and like, hey, let me discuss this with you, and like, hey, this decision you're going to make right now is going to affect a lot of stuff, but you don't need to do that per se. And so, so it's fun watching those dynamics of him kind of being this older cop, and then like even his reporting officer, like he's told him flat out, I don't like you, because he's like, if you succeed, then there's going to be a bunch of 40-year-old men men come into my police station trying to redo their life and their midlife crisis. He's like, I don't want that, because he's like, then you've got a bunch of people here making poor decisions, and what they're saying is like he's already got a mindset because he's 40. He's like, whereas these 20-year-olds, you can help develop their mindset, and so he's like, you've already made up your mind about a lot of this stuff, and he's like, we need you to unlearn what you already know so that you can be a cop in a good way. But he's also teaching them some things that maybe they haven't thought of. So there's some interesting dynamics, especially when it comes to worldview of like, all right, what would I do in this situation? And is this good? And is this bad? And those kind of things. So yeah, so check.
That's the Rookie.
Check it out. I'm trying to, yeah. So, I mean, I'm only 5 or 6 episodes in.
Yeah.
But,
So Jimmy, do you think people would make the bad decision or good decision?
I think if it was the right decision, the right situation, and they had the quote unquote perfect opportunity to do it, then people would probably take advantage of it. But in general, I think kind of population as a whole, if someone could take advantage of you, would they? I don't think so. And that's probably just the optimist in me saying that. No, I think people will typically treat you right, but I that also got me to pick up a murderer. So
check out that episode.
I
don't know which one it is, but
Oh, yeah.
all right. Well, hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Worldview Finder episode 47. We'll see you next time. I'm Chris,
I'm Adrian.
and I'm Jimmy.
and we'll see you next time again.